So I have started recording.
It's recording. Yeah. So the time is 4:04 p.m. on September 10th, 2020. Welcome, everyone. I would like to call this meeting of the Healthy Chula Vista Advisory Commission to order. In the interest of public health and safety and pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order N-29-20, members of the Healthy Chula Vista Advisory Commission and staff are participating in this meeting by teleconference. In accordance with the executive order, the public may view this meeting online and not in the conference room B11, B12 in Building C at 276 4th Avenue, where it normally takes place. The city launched a virtual commenting portal, e-comment, that allows residents to comment and participate in the meeting from their own homes. You can find the link to e-comment at www.chulavista.gov/boards. Your comments must be received before I call the close of the commenting period in order to be considered. After the commenting period is closed, I will announce a brief pause to allow the commissioners time to read any comments that have been received. If you have difficulty or need assistance with e-comment during this meeting, please email Patricia Salvacion for assistance at psalvacion@chulavista.gov. Would the secretary please call the roll?
Yes. Commissioner Cruz? Commissioner Cruz?
Mary, you're on mute. Mary, if you're with us, you're on mute.
Earlier for me, I muted on the phone and the computer, so I had to demute it from both.
Mary, I'm trying to unmute you, but it's not working. I think you can move on. We'll come back. She is online, so.
Okay. Commissioner de Murguia? Commissioner
Maura is trying to get on as well, so she should be with us in just a few minutes.
Okay. Commissioner Hernandez Nader?
Present.
Commissioner Martinez?
Present.
Commissioner Murphy?
Present.
Commissioner Quiros? Commissioner Rodriguez?
Present.
And Commissioner Melgoza has requested an excused absence. Also, Vice Chair Partida Lopez will not be in attendance. Thank you.
Thank you. So public comments is the section on the agenda for members of the public to address the board on items that are not listed on the agenda. I will now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final public comments. Commissioners, as a reminder, please refresh the view on your screen to ensure new comments appear if there are any. And Stacy had sent over a link, but if anyone new logged in, I think it'll be in the chat. Is that correct, Stacy?
Yes, it is also in the chat. The 2-minute period has ended. And there are no comments.
No comments were received.
Thank you. I forgot I was on mute. So the commenting period for the public comments is now closed. And we're going to move on to the action items. The first item on the agenda is item number 1, election of chair and vice chair for fiscal year 2020 and 2021. Does the staff?
Presentation?
Okay, thank you.
There is no staff presentation, so we would like to take nominations at this time for our chair and vice chair for this year.
I don't really know who, I mean, is everyone on here besides Simon or Simon?
So
On
the
the committee,
commissioners that are on are Alan Rodriguez, Frida Hernandez-Nader, Liz Murphy, yourself, Mary Cruz. And so that's who is on today. We are missing Anna Melgoza. And then I did mention before the meeting started, Lucia, and should let the commission know that Roman Partida Lopez, who was our vice chair last year, has decided to resign from the commission due to other priorities and scheduling conflicts. So the only other person would be Lorena Quiros that would also be eligible as a potential chair or vice chair.
Okay. Does anybody want to volunteer?
Hi, it's Frida here. I'd like to table this item for our next meeting, if that's okay with the rest of the commissioners.
That works for me. Is that okay, Stacy? Can we table it one more meeting?
It's okay, except that I will continue to probably call on you or somebody else to volunteer to run the meetings until we do officially have a chair.
Okay, that's fine. I second the motion.
Patricia, can you please call a roll for vote?
Yes. So I will now call each member's name, please. Commissioner Cruz. Commissioner Cruz?
Here. Hello.
Commissioner Cruz? Yes?
I can't hear you. Or you can't hear me.
We can hear you now.
Oh, yes.
And Commissioner De Murguia, Commissioner Hernandez-Nader,
Hi.
Commissioner Martinez,
Aye.
Commissioner Murphy, Commissioner Rodriguez.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, so I will now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any comments on the item before the commission. Is that okay? Because I know this is a little different.
I think that because it's been tabled, we probably don't need to do that because they'll have an opportunity at the next meeting to comment on it.
Okay, so then we will go ahead and move forward. So action item number 2, SB 793, flavored tobacco products legislative update. I think Stacy, that would be you. I will now call, no, that would just be you.
Yes, so actually we have another speaker with us today too, Chelsea, and I'm gonna move that so I can see you, Chelsea Walczak Verks, and I probably mispronounced it, but she's also going to be presenting on this particular item as well as the next item. So I just wanted to give a quick background for those that are new to the commission. About a year ago, we brought forward an item to the Healthy Chula Vista Commission to look at some of the current legislation and advocacy that was going on around flavored tobacco products at a national and local level. And we took forward something in February of this year to our city council that proposed a ban on flavored tobacco products and a moratorium on the sale of e-cigarette devices. That was tabled at the time, and during due to COVID, we were not able to move forward as quickly with the additional requests that our city council had made from us. And then in the meantime, there's been advances at the state level in this arena. And so Chelsea is actually going to provide us a little bit more background about what has happened at the state level around flavored tobacco products.
Thank you, Stacy, for the introduction. And sorry, I'm getting a little bit of feedback.
Mary, can you put yours on mute for a little bit, please, while Chelsea presents? Thank you.
All right, I just want to make sure everyone can hear me. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me today. You know, I'm excited to be here to talk about some of these advocacy efforts that the Heart Association, but more largely public health advocates have been working on, and specifically around California Senate Bill 793, the flavored tobacco bill. As Stacy alluded to, you know, did actually get signed by Governor Newsom on August 28th. I can't believe it was almost 2 weeks ago. I don't know where the time has gone. But let's talk a little bit about that bill and, you know, what it means for California, but also what it means more locally. So Senate Bill 793, I apologize. If you get any background noise from my emails going off. So Senate Bill 793 restricts the sale of most flavored tobacco products, and that includes e-liquids used in e-cigarettes or sometimes talked about as vapes. So that does also include those types of products. That means removing these products from the shelf so that they cannot be sold to anyone, especially including minors when we're thinking about that. You know, we know that this is really important because flavors like mango, blueberry muffin, and mint are hooking kids and are one of the biggest reasons why we have this new epidemic of youth nicotine addiction. So this is obviously something that we are pretty excited about. You know, the Heart Association has worked as a leading organization along with other public health advocates for over 2 years at the state level to see this passed. So this law as written should go into effect on January 1st of 2021. But, and the big caveat here is that we know that big tobacco companies are definitely in for a fight for this. California is one of the largest markets and is obviously very important to the tobacco companies. So we know that we're going to see a fight, and already markedly are going to see some resistance. And at any time, I'm gonna pause for questions at a couple points because I know this can get kind of complex. So please, if anyone has questions throughout, definitely stop me. I'm happy to answer them. And I also have our Heart Association advocacy advisor who popped in here as well, Alexa. So her and I are both here to answer any questions, especially if they get into the nitty-gritty details.
And Chelsea, I just wanted to pause for one quick second, acknowledge that we do have a new commissioner that's joined us. It's Commissioner De Murguia. I just want to make sure that Maura is able to hear us. I see her listed, so I'm hoping she's able to hear us. We'll check back in with you, Maura. Okay, Chelsea, I'm sorry about that.
No, not at all. No worries. So in terms of what I was just saying about big tobacco definitely fighting back, the day that this was signed, actually just a few days after, they did file for a referendum And essentially that means that they've got about 90 days, so somewhere into November, to collect 600,000, just over 600,000 signatures that would actually put the bill as a ballot measure that would then get voted on in its entirety. So I was saying, if this bill was to go through as proposed right now, it would get enacted January 1st of 2021, so just coming around the corner. With the referendum, if the signatures are collected and it is in fact put on the ballot, we suspect that it actually wouldn't be a ballot measure until November of 2022. If that does in fact happen, that means that the law doesn't get enacted next year, next January. It means that it's completely suspended and on hold until the ballot measure can be voted on at the state level. So by everyone, by all the constituents in California. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Okay. Sounds good. So I will keep moving with that. So basically, I'm going to jump into what does that. So we talked a little bit about what it means for California. If this passes, that means that these products are going to be off of the shelves at any stores that is selling tobacco products. The one thing that the bill doesn't necessarily have in it is grounds for enforcement. And that is where, it's really important locally to think about that enforcement and how that's brought forward. And one of the most effective ways for enforcement is a tobacco retail license, which Chula Vista actually does have, which is great. Tobacco retail license helps locally keep an eye on, who's selling tobacco, and it has those compliance measures to make sure that the enforcement is there so that there aren't sales to underage, to youth. It also helps to enforce to make sure in this instant that those products aren't in the stores. And there's also, compliance around marketing and a few other things like that. So I will say that's one thing that is going to be a focus statewide in California for many public health advocates, including the Heart Association, is working with cities and counties to establish those tobacco retail licenses, to be able to enforce laws like this if they do get put into place. Additionally, it'll be really important locally, if the referendum does go through, if they're successful in collecting their signatures and delaying SB 793 from going into effect and putting it on the ballot, one of the big pushes that'll be evident for us is that we will be looking to work with cities and counties to also enact their own flavored tobacco sales restrictions. And I know that seems kind of counterintuitive. The state has putting something out there, so why locally is that important? But the reason being, first of all, if the referendum passes and the Senate bill does, have to wait to go on the ballot until 2022, we can't wait. We can't wait all that time, for these flavored products that we know are hooking kids to be taken off the shelf. So we will be looking, at cities and at counties to definitely take up the torch and really use the Senate bill as a building block, kind of as a floor, to also build more local laws that include flavored sales restrictions. That'll be one important thing. And additionally, with that thought, if cities and counties do actually start, writing and enforcing their own flavored sales restrictions, that also might be grounds for the large tobacco companies to actually back off and leave the state law alone. Seeing that there are other cities popping up and deciding that this is an important enough fight may actually deter, the industry from fighting so hard against it at the state level. So I'm going to pause there again for any questions.
Hi, Chelsea. I have a question. So does the law ban all flavors, including mint, you said?
Yes, it is all characterizing flavors, so that includes mint and menthol. That's correct.
Thank
Of course.
I have a question.
Great.
Is there anything that this commission needs to do to get the local ordinance passed in Chula Vista?
So at this point, the council asked us to do some more research around tobacco use in Chula Vista and also about the retailers and some more specifics about the different types of retailers that sell it, and then also kind of concentrations. And so we have not done a lot of the outreach because we were going to start surveying some of our youth, and of course, with the high schools going to a virtual format. At the time, we were all just kind of feeling it out. And now that school is back into session in a more formal way, I think we could move forward and doing that additional research. So I certainly, if the commission decides that that's something that they want to prioritize for this year, I certainly would ask you for some assistance if you would like to help with the formatting of surveys and some of that outreach effort. So that is one way that the commission would be able to help if that is determined to be a priority. And we're going to talk about priorities a little bit later in the agenda.
you.
All right.
I'm willing to work with you to formulate a survey and to distribute it to our high schools since I work in the district.
Okay, thank you for that.
Wonderful. Well, great questions, first of all, and thank you. I love the willingness that you guys are here to to kind of hear our priorities and think about them, how they affect Chula Vista locally, and it's really great. We were excited to hear that you guys were working around flavors and bringing that forward to the city council. So, of course, here to support in any way that we can as well. And I know Alexa will echo that sentiment. So in terms of kind of what's next, I'm going to talk about the county just a little bit. Chula Vista, like I mentioned, already has a tobacco retail license, which is really great. You guys are ahead of the curve. I think there's 6 or 7 cities in San Diego County that do have tobacco retail licenses, which makes that enforcement, of any laws around tobacco a lot easier. It actually gives the teeth to these laws. For example, SB 793 actually really doesn't have any teeth. It doesn't really have any setup for enforcement. So it's really important at the local level that these licensures help to give that local support so that we make sure that these things are actually being followed through. So the County of San Diego is going to be hearing sometime this fall. We thought it was going to be the end of this month, but really not sure if it's going to be this month or next. They're going to be hearing and deciding on their own tobacco retail license for the unincorporated parts of San Diego. And, love the idea of you guys lending any support there as well. We know that there are pieces of Chula Vista that are near unincorporated areas, and hate the idea that you guys could have such great restrictions within your jurisdiction and your area, and then yet could see kids going into these other areas and making these purchases because their enforcement is not as great in those places. So, underlining the importance of having these great policies in place like you do, is important, and it's important for uniformity across the county as well.
Chelsea, I have a quick question about the county effort, and I apologize, I'm kind of multitasking here, so if I missed it. The original item that the county took forward did include elements of flavored tobacco and so forth. Are they only moving forward with the licensing at this point?
Yeah, so back in January, when they did bring up their flavored sales restriction that they were able to pass components of, You're correct. They did not have their tobacco retail licensing in that January. They are hearing it, from what I understand this time around, is mostly focused on the licensing. And then separately, they're going to address a couple other pieces from the flavored sales restriction, mostly focused on the smokeless tobacco exemption that kind of happened because of the wording for the policy. Alexa, let me know if I got that correct.
Thanks, Chelsea. Yep, that's right. In September or October, the Board of Supervisors will be hearing a tobacco retail license policy, and they'll also be addressing some of the products that were left out in that January vote to restrict flavored tobacco products. So we're expecting that they'll address smokeless tobacco and hookah tobacco as well.
Great. Well, are there any other questions around, the flavored tobacco bill at the state level, or kind of any of the local focuses? I'd be happy to take those.
One more question.
Sure.
So is it only nicotine products that are flavored nicotine products, or is it all flavored, even without the nicotine, that will be banned with the?
Hi, Liz. This is Alexa. Are you asking about the bill at the county level or the bill at the state level?
Well, I guess at the state, or both, maybe.
Sure. The way we define tobacco products includes cigarettes, e-cigarettes with nicotine, cigars, cigarillos, hookah, smokeless, etc. Anything that contains tobacco or nicotine.
Right. So it does not include the vapes that do not contain nicotine.
Okay. Correct. If you're referring to vapes that contain just THC, that's right. This bill does not address those products.
So they can still buy flavored THC products for this bill.
At this time, yes, this bill was meant to address tobacco products and nicotine addiction. THC and marijuana products will need to be addressed separately.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Are you getting a lot of opposition from wanting to move forward with restricting the flavored tobacco? I was just curious because I had someone mention to me that they were going to have petitions out against this. I was just curious. I'm for it, but I just was curious if there's a lot of opposition.
I appreciate the question, and the answer is yes and yes. With the signing of the bill on August 28th, we got about a weekend to celebrate that win for public health. And then on Monday, as Chelsea described, the tobacco industry filed a referendum on the whole law. So, it was a very, very long fight to get this public health bill passed, and still, even though it is signed and was voted on with overwhelming support in both the Assembly and Senate, we see it's still being fought, and we won't get these protections until at least 2022. In addition, we see a lot of opposition to these policies at the local level, and that's something we can always present the public health side and the public health benefits that are proven to result from these policies passing. But we do struggle with the other side saying that it might hurt business or a variety of other things.
And I'll add on to what Alexis is saying there about the sides that we can present, and really overwhelmingly, the health of our next generation, especially, talking to a council here that's all about health. I think we can commiserate on the fact that it's so important, and the long-lasting effects of tobacco have been documented and seen, and we're just starting to get a lot of data and studies, back showing the effects of these vape products too, and the e-cigarettes, and it's really overwhelmingly, pointing to maybe they're less harmful than traditional cigarettes, but they're still harmful, and that's still, our biggest focus is that we don't want to see all of the hard work that's been done for generations and generations, to come forward and to, have the next generation be addicted to nicotine. It's just, it's devastating.
When is the deadline for the referendum you're talking about?
Hi. So the the industry has until November 26th to collect about 623,000 original signatures, so wet signatures. And then it will be eligible for the ballot.
Thank you.
Of course, we believe it'll come on the 2022 November ballot, but if there is a special election before then, it will go on that ballot.
And where are we if for some reason they don't collect the 622,000 signatures?
So if they don't collect the signatures, then the bill will actually go into law on January 1st of 2021. So just coming up here in a few months.
Got it. Yeah, because we had all those presentations before when it came to our meeting, and I know there was a lot of people there for and against, I guess, and so I just was surprised to see that it's on hold again.
Yes, I would caution though, we assume it's almost a done deal that they will probably get those signatures by the deadline.
Right. Yeah. Got it. All right. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. Does staff have any comments they'd like to make before we go into public comment and deliberation?
No, not at this time. I think this is an item we can bring back up on our last agenda item if we want to.
Okay. And it sounds like the committee members were able to have their questions. Does anyone have any final questions? All right. So I will call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on the item before the commission deliberation. And as a reminder to commissioners, please refresh the view on your screen to ensure new comments appear.
Lucia, you're on
You're on.
mute.
Thought I pushed the button. Okay, so the commenting period for this item is now closed. I don't think I saw any comments pop through.
No, no comments were received.
All right, thank you. Do any commissioners have any comments or questions at this time? Nope. All right, so the next item on the agenda is item number 4. The staff have the presentation. This would be commission role as a policy advisory. Simon Silva, City of Chula Vista Deputy City Attorney, will provide a brief overview of the commission's role in providing policy priorities to the city manager and council.
Actually, Lucia, I think we skipped over because Chelsea's going to be presenting on another item. So I think you skipped over.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought
That's
it was
okay.
the same because I saw American Heart Association. I saw her name. So, okay, we'll come back to 4 and go to 3. So the presentation by the American Heart Association on local and state legislative agendas. So again, Chelsea Walczak-Burks will provide an overview of the American Heart Association policy priorities.
And I'm just going to jump in real quick to say these are all connected, even the next item that you read about Simone. And the reason being is that we did, take action back in February and through this commission about the vaping items and flavored tobacco. And as you can see, some things were happening at the state level as well. So one of the things going into this year that I've discussed with city management is about this commission taking a more active role in legislative items in general, and whether that be support or oppose different legislation that's at the state level or even at a national level versus adopting our own local ordinances. We wanted to start kind of talking a little bit more about what is going on in the world of public health at a higher level. And so that's why I invited Chelsea here today. And then we're going to talk after she's done, obviously, and bring Simone on to talk about what does that look like for this commission as far as being in a more advocate role as far as legislation is concerned. So we're going to let Chelsea go so that she can then jump off and go upon eating her dinner. And then Simone will talk to us about what it is that we could do as a commission in regards to all of these legislative items. So Chelsea.
Thank you, and Stacy, I appreciate that. If anyone missed that, I was sharing that I had meetings over my lunch today, so I am going to jump off afterwards and go to an early dinner. So thank you, and thanks for having me here today, and also Alexa. Like I said, she's really going to help jump in on some items here too. She's really our advocacy expert for our Western State region, and I'm here in San Diego, so I like to be hands-on in talking about these things. So. Stacy so kindly asked us to come in and talk about our legislative agenda for the state. And I will tell you guys, just given where we are in the fiscal year, given that SB 793 just passed, just as we talked about, and also given, COVID and the big responses there, our legislative agenda hasn't necessarily been quite set for the state level yet. But I did want to share a few things that we know that we will need to keep working on. Including some of the tobacco, the tobacco pieces that we just talked about. And, the next piece is really something that's been ongoing for the last couple of years, is around California Assembly Bill 1838. And this bill is the sugar sweetened beverage tax preemption, something that public health advocates have been fighting to overturn actually for the past couple of years since it was passed in 2018. So I do want to level set about preemption. I just want to explain what it is. I know that some of you probably know what it is, but I'm just going to go ahead and talk a little bit about preemption. So preemption is when a higher level of government, say the state or the federal government, takes away a lower level of government's power to pass laws on a specific item. It can be around taxes, in this case, sugar sweetened beverage taxes, but it can be on a slew of other things. Sometimes preemption is seen as good, and sometimes it's seen as not as favorable. One good example I've seen of where preemption was good on the national level is when airplane smoking bans, came into light because of the nature of airplanes crossing state lines. They really wanted to have a very comprehensive way to control those bans, and it made sense for the federal government to preempt states from passing laws that would overturn that. Hopefully that didn't confuse anyone, and hopefully that helped shed light on ways that preemption can be good. But when we're talking about this this Assembly Bill 1838 that was passed in 2018, we're talking about a preemption that took away local control to pass taxes on sodas and sugar sweetened beverages. The reason that a lot of cities and counties like to have the control here is for the revenue purposes, of course. But from the public health side of it, passing taxes, often called soda taxes, but sugar sweetened beverage taxes, decreases the consumption of sugar sweetened beverages, increases water consumption, which we know is great. And also, that added benefit of that tax revenue that can go back into local communities to build the health around, often around obesity initiatives, and as well as, can be put towards things like increasing healthy food access and consumption. So, I'm gonna come out a little bit from talking about the bill and more generally about sugar and why this focus on sugar. And it's really because we know that there's a big connection between sugar consumption, and especially in sugary drinks, and obesity. And that has really long-term impacts on cardiovascular health, on stroke, on diabetes, on everything around chronic conditions. We know that what we eat, and especially the sugar that we consume, has a big effect on our overall health. So when this was passed in 2018, the state control of being able to pass any taxes on sugar sweetened beverage. It took away for cities to be able to, moving forward, implement any further taxes on sugary drinks. So 3 California cities actually did pass their own taxes before AB 1838 went into effect. Alexa, I might need your help here. I think it's Berkeley.
Sure, Chelsea. It's 4 cities that passed their sugary drink taxes. It's the City-County of San Francisco, City of Berkeley, City of Oakland, and City of Albany.
Right, and we know in those 4 cities, I'll pause here because I know that at that point, Chula Vista, just before this was passed too, was actually poised to pass their own sugar sweetened beverage tax. And I know this kind of came as a blow to the city because you guys were right there and about to cross that finish line. So I know that this with some of you who were around then and have that knowledge of this, we'll have a little bit of understanding of how close this hits to home in the importance of the health for cities, but as well as thinking about the revenue, and especially the revenue in the face of COVID right now. We know that some cities in other states, for example, Seattle, have been able to use their sugar sweetened beverage tax revenue to help to feed families during COVID. About 6,000 families in Seattle received additional SNAP benefits from their sugar sweetened beverage tax. That's one huge example of the impact that this can make. On top of the impact that the decrease in this beverage consumption really has on kids and adults. So I just wanted to pause there to see if there's any questions. Again, we picked complex issues to bring up tonight.
Chelsea, I do want to just add to the statements about the city. So just to clarify, what was going on here in Chula Vista at the time that this was kind of brought forward, started to be discussed, and I think we did discuss it a little bit at the commission level, but essentially there were two other ballot measures that were going to be placed onto the ballot the same year here in Chula Vista around Measure A and Measure A and Measure P. So for infrastructure and then also for our first responders. And both, while they're both tax on sales tax, there was a concern that that bringing forward a third would be confusing to voters and just perceived as the city just overtaxing. And so that's why the city didn't move forward with proposing anything. Since that time, there has been, and we saw this back in February with the tobacco item, there has been a huge sensitivity for local business in Chula Vista. COVID has exemplified that concern. And so that is why I think we have held off on moving forward any further on this particular item. And with that, I'll leave it to the commissioners if they have any questions. I'm assuming nobody has any questions because
Okay.
I'm not
I
hearing
have a
anybody
question.
unmute.
Okay, quick question. I'm just surprised that it was passed in the first place. I'm shocked in the state of California. There must have been a big lobby behind it. I'm surprised that they got enough votes to vote it through and that it was signed. I mean, what was the reasoning besides money? I don't understand.
Yeah, Liz, that's a really great question. I'm gonna pass it over to Alexa to talk about this. She has a really great handle on being able to explain this the best.
Sure. So it was, I'll put it this way, a sticky situation. The beverage industry came to the legislature in 2018 with enough signatures to put on the ballot an initiative that would have made it a lot harder for any local government in California to pass any tax, period. They had enough signatures to do that, and that put the state legislature in a very difficult place. They said, if the beverage industry basically said, if you pass preemption or basically don't allow local cities to pass sugary drink taxes for another 13 years, we won't put this on the ballot. Now, the SACB, in I'm going to use their words, has called this political extortion. And in our conversations with state legislators, they feel exactly that way. It was, they were between a rock and a hard place. But I think that since then, the environment is so different. Local and state government need revenue to address not only the pandemic, but just general public health. And so we think that this is a good time to dig up the issue again.
Thank you.
Mary, I saw that you were off of mute, so I don't know if you had a question. Oh, you just muted again because I unmuted you. It's currently muted, so if you wanted to talk, please unmute yourself, Mary.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my question is, you said it's sugary drink, so does that include orange juice, cranberry juice, apple juice, or is it just soft drinks? And also, if they're non-sugary, will they also be taxed?
Thank you for the question. So it's up to the jurisdiction, but what the American Heart Association recommends is that it's just drinks such as sodas and energy drinks that have a very high percentage of added sugars. So not orange juice, not apple juice.
is it only like bottled manufactured? Because they're like, you know, the boba teas and all these like Starbucks, you know, drinks that are sugary, very high in sugar. So it would only be bottled, like, you know, retail.
That's correct, and that is for enforcement issues. It's incredibly difficult to levy a tax on sugar volume for drinks that are made in person, and so this would only apply to pre-bottled drinks and beverages.
And I don't know if I missed it, but did you guys say, or has it even been discussed, the actual amount of tax that they're proposing?
So at this point, the goal of the Heart Association right now is to get local cities and counties to voice support for overturning preemption at the state level. The goal is not yet to levy a tax. We just want to give cities and counties the ability to consider taxing sugary drinks if they want to.
Got it. That's the whole preemptive part of it.
Yes.
Thanks.
So what are the next steps statewide?
So that's a really great question, Alan. You know, the next steps are to create that grassroots support for overturning this preemption and really giving local control back. So, you know, we've heard from state legislators that, you know, they like Alexa so eloquently said, they felt like they were between a rock and a hard place. But in order to go to bat and overturn this, they really, really want to see cities and counties, you know, pass resolutions that say that they do want this control back. So that's our number one, you know, number one focus in this area is working locally with cities, with counties, kind of whoever's interested to say, hey, we would like this local control back, not necessarily committing to a tax, but at this time saying we would like this option back.
And if I could add, so we've worked with several cities and counties around the state so far. Most recently, we just had a resolution in support of this pass at the City of Los Angeles. And so we're hoping to get a couple other cities, especially in the southern part of the state and the San Diego region. We'll talk to any city who is interested in this measure, but we really want to get representation across the state and from a variety of different demographics and rural, urban, etc. Cities and counties to say that they want the ability to have to levy these taxes if they need to.
Well, great. If there's no more questions, oh, did someone?
No, I was gonna say it looks like we have no more questions.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, you know, for having us and letting us kind of share a few of those things out. Happy to connect with any of you if there are any further questions afterwards, and appreciate your time.
Chelsea, if you could just hang on for I don't see any attendees,
Sure.
but we will be going into our 2-minute period here. So just in case there's any comments from the public.
Absolutely.
All right, so I will now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on the item before the commission deliberation. And as a reminder, please refresh the view on your screen, commissioners, to ensure new comments do appear. All right, so the commenting period for this item is now closed. I did not see any comments.
That's correct.
Through.
Comments were received.
Okay, thank you. Do any commissioners have any comments or questions before we move on to the next agenda item? All right, so the next agenda item, number 4, as I mentioned earlier, would be commission role as a policy advisory. So Simon Silva, City of Chula Vista Deputy City Attorney. I introduced you earlier, but you'll provide a brief overview of the commission's role in providing policy priorities to the city manager and to our council.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm glad everybody's here, and I'm excited to continue to work with you folks. I attend off and on the meetings. It's been quite a while since I've been to the last one, and we also have some newer members that I've met. So I want to say hello. My name's Simon Silva. I'm a deputy city attorney. I advise various boards and commissions on different activities. I advise, for example, Board of Ethics, Civil Service Commission, this commission, as well as a couple of others. And one of the things that comes up is that most of the boards and commissions are advisory in nature. You serve as the eyes and ears and the idea kind of fomenters for city council to act on and make decisions based on that. And so what I wanted to do was give you an outline of just what things you can do to get your ideas to council or to the city manager so they get acted upon, and how you can do that. And the reason I'm explaining this is, well, what your role is in terms of city council. And so let me pull it up real quick. So the board was created, or the commission was created under Municipal Code Section 2.47. And within that, there's a section 2.47030. And in it says what your duties and functions are. And there are just 3 of them. The first one is you serve as an advisory body to the city council and city manager, and that's generally on healthy Chula Vista initiative type actions. The other one is periodic assessment of the health needs of the residents of Chula Vista, review health-related policies and strategies, including the general plan and the Healthy Chula Vista Action Plan, to make recommendations to improve said plans and to address and identify community health needs. And then the last one is to perform such functions or duties as may be delegated by the city council. And so really, the first 2 is the bread and butter of what you do, is serve as that advisory role, and to the city council and the city manager. And so what does that mean to you in terms of how you get your ideas and what you want to do acted upon? And there's a variety of ways you can do it, or that it occurs. The first one is really the city as a whole, meaning the city manager has an idea or something that they want to, that involves Healthy Chula Vista. And what they'll do is generally they'll have an idea, they'll come to you folks for a recommendation about whether it should be supported or not. And then from there, the city manager writes their staff report with the reso, and the item gets acted upon based on your recommendation as one of the factors that's considered. And that's kind of the normal legislative process when we have boards and commissions involved. For example, on a planning matter, we may go to the planning commission, get their input on it, and then go to council for the final action. And within it, it explains what the recommendation of the planning commission was. But there's other ways that it goes through council where the idea is driven through your identification of an issue and you want to move it forward. There's a variety of ways that it could be done. And they include the following. The first one is you can obviously meet, gather information, and then direct staff to draft a letter, with what the item is, an explanation why you support it, and then a recommendation to the city manager for their action. And then of course the city manager can then, if it needs council approval, can route it through that regular legislative process. So one of the ways is really drafting a letter to city manager requesting that they take action on it. The other way is by a resolution, and that is where you folks want to have something go forward, and want council to support or not support something. And so that's by resolution, where we create our resolution format. It has the whereas that explains what the issue is, what the basis for an action is, and then a resolution saying that you support this action and recommendations as to council would want to do. And that's the way you get your ideas from your body to the city manager and the city council. But there's something always kind of missing in that is when you folks want to be an advocate for something, where you want to go out and say the city supports this and contact maybe a legislator, a policymaker in another jurisdiction, another type of entity that works in that, like the American Heart Association or the Lung Association or Cancer Association, the different groups that you would partner with, the Tobacco Coalition folks that you would want to partner with to advocate for an idea. And so basically one of the ways you can do that is basically asking a letter to the city manager to put it on council with things that you folks are interested in, and then asking city council to let you do that. And that falls under the section C, which is perform such functions or duties as may be delegated by the city council. So you convey your idea to council through the means that I've suggested. And then as part of either the letter or resolution, you ask for that authority to do more. And we can clarify that. That way we go beyond an advisory role to a little bit more advocacy because council is delegating to you that authority. So that's really, the quick and simple explanation of what you're able to do is gather the information, meet like you do, and when you want to take action, the different routes of council's city manager is going to take action on it anyway, and you're supportive. A letter to the city manager asking them to take action, including communicating to council on an issue, and then a resolution where you're saying this is what I would like to do, and this is what I could recommend. And then within any of those documents, get the authority if you want to do more in terms of advocacy and partnering. That's outside the norm that we would do to make sure you folks are able to act appropriately. I'll give you an example of an item where we followed this process. It didn't get to council, but the process worked in that the Human Relations Commission wanted to have the Christopher Columbus statue taken down at Discovery Park for a variety of reasons, including presentations by the indigenous communities, as explaining the history of what Christopher Columbus meant to them, the history. So there's quite a good of public debate at that commission's meeting. They talked about the ideas that they wanted done, directed the city staff, which was me at the time, and so I drafted a resolution with some rough ideas and then some rough items that they had suggested they'd like to see in a reso. They came back and then clarified what they wanted in the reso, and we worked on that. And so finally we completed a resolution that had what they wanted to, why they were recommending their actions, and then the different actions that they wanted. And the resolution had to remove the statue, to find an alternate replacement, to establish a committee that would work on finding another alternate piece of artwork that would be there. So there was a good input, a good resolution that was going to go to council. However, it got removed for other reasons down the line. But that's the kind of process that if you're going to go a resolution and things like that, we can do. So that's pretty much it. If anybody has any questions, feel free.
Of templates of resolutions that we could follow when we do have ideas?
Yeah, absolutely. We have plenty of resos. I could also draft and have available just kind of a boilerplate reso for you guys to fill out. So we could give you a boilerplate one to fill out, and then ones that we've done so that you can see what they look like as well. And same thing for a letter. I know another God, I want to say it's the Sustainability Commission. They wanted to draft a letter and went that route as well. So there's practice out there in doing it, but I want to make sure just that that there's different ways we could communicate to the city manager and the city council to get their support and then move an item forward at beyond an advisory role. Any other questions? No. I will say when we do this, I'll work with Stacy and you folks to draft whatever we need to go forward and make sure it's a good product that gets what you folks done.
Thank you, Simone.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So it looks like we have no comments. Final chat to speak up? No. Okay. So I will now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on the item before the commission deliberation. And commissioners, please remember to refresh the view on your screen to ensure any new comments do appear. All right, the commenting period for this item is now closed, and I didn't see any comments pop in.
No comments were received.
Thank you. And do any commissioners have any comments or questions now that you've had some time? Oh, all right, so the next item on the agenda is item number 5. And it looks like, Stacy, you have it up there. So Stacy, officially the City of Chula Vista Senior Project Coordinator, will now provide an overview of Healthy Chula Vista Action Plan implementation, progress, and solicit input from the Commission on goals for the coming year.
So thank you, Lucia. So I just wanted to do a really quick overview of the Healthy Chula Vista Action Plan and really just get you guys started on thinking about where we want to move from here. The plan was initially adopted back in January of 2016 and set out a 5-year work plan. So we're actually technically at the end of the plan. However, there was a caveat in the plan that, you know, our movement on the plan and all the strategies within the plan, we're really going to be dependent on just different public health issues. And obviously nobody expected this past year to occur. And then also, you know, just grant funding and availability of staff time. I think most of you know, but for those new members, if you don't, I work part-time on Healthy Chula Vista, and I also work on development projects within our planning department as well. And so work just kind of ebbs and flows, and so do public health issues, as we all know. But initially, the action plan was developed really to establish partnerships, policies, and programs that would address public health issues and overall wellness in our community. And the plan focused on 7 different focus areas. Many of you are experts in one of these fields. And I just wanted to go through what's at the back of the plan, which is our work plan, really quickly. I'm not going to go through, for time's sake today, all the accomplishments. What I am going to highlight are things that I think, from my perspective, are the issues that we see most relevant, especially due to COVID-19, things that I could foresee us moving on in the next year. However, I'm really looking to the Commission to provide guidance to me like I said, we are at that 5-year period. So technically we could do an amendment, we could revise the plan, we could do a whole new plan. But I think there is still enough meat within the plan that we can still act upon things, and there's enough flexibility. So with that, I'm just going to quickly go through each focus area. And I encourage you to take a look at the action plan so that we can have further discussions about this. But this basically was the focus area of engagement. And the two areas that we either started moving on or have become even more pronounced in the past 6 or 8 months. I'll start with the health champions at the bottom. We talked about doing an annual award that would exemplify people in our community that are promoting wellness in each of the 7 focus areas. We had gotten all the paperwork done and we were really ready to launch it when COVID hit. And so we haven't moved forward on that, but that's something that I think we could, if the commission wants to move forward on that, we can bring that forward and establish a time period for applications again and move on getting some health champions in our community established on an annual basis. The other item here I highlighted is limited English proficiency. I think, just over the past 6 months or so, we've all known that we have a very highly bilingual and monolingual community here in Chula Vista, and that's something that has become even more pronounced with COVID and with our virtual aspect now. I mean, obviously this is not being broadcast in Spanish, but we're making changes within our city clerk's office to try to do things more bilingually as we move forward. And so that's an area that I definitely could foresee this commission helping with as well. The second focus area is land use. And obviously, as we move out of COVID-19 and trying to recover from this pandemic, I think resiliency is something that we're all going to need in our community. And so building that even further is something that we could be looking at. For transportation, those that do not have transportation access in our community has become more pronounced as well with COVID-19. So, other forms of transportation and walking and biking have become more of a hobby for a lot of people than they may have been previously. And so those are kind of the areas where I could see us doing some additional work. There is a project right now as well around a mobility hub, which Sandag is working on. And that's really looking at establishing at one of our trolley stations, more of a hub for transportation, which would address first and last mile to our larger transit stops. And so that's a piece of where the car and bike sharing come in. There's a survey that's out right now. I'll make sure to get that to all of you so that you can spread it as well to try to reach people in our communities, particularly in the northwest area of Chula Vista around that mobility hub. For healthy food access, obviously food distribution became a huge issue for us in the city over the past several months. And so I think there's more work that could be done in that area as well. And then nutritional programming as well. I've started some things, but I definitely think we could build upon that in our community as well. A lot of the other things on here, several of them we actually have adopted. And so I will definitely update our implementation of all of these policies and programs so that I can get that out to everybody before the next meeting so that you can see where we have made more progress. Under physical activity, I think that one of our commissioners, Commissioner Hernandez-Nader, brought this up last time about maintenance issues in some of our parks. And so that's something that we definitely, and I know one of our other commissioners who's no longer on the commission used to talk a lot about Western Chula Vista and the parks and trying to get better amenities and more parks in Western Chula Vista. So I think that's an area that we still have room to improve and to make some impact on. And then under healthcare and prevention, I highlighted a lot of things because I think, COVID-19 has just really brought forward a number of items around economic development, which I talked about our small businesses earlier, around chronic disease and some of the, highest numbers of people impacted and particularly deaths associated with COVID-19 are for those that have pre-existing conditions like diabetes. Mental health, obviously, with our isolation has become another issue that I think that we probably haven't even really seen the impact of yet. We do know that domestic violence is up in our community, but we haven't seen all the other numbers yet associated with mental health. So that's something I think that, we definitely knew was something rising, and there's a stigma culturally around that in our community. So we definitely, we're already trying to make some movement on that item. And then finally, I included CalFresh here because, as I mentioned at the last meeting, there is a current grant that we have through the UCSD, and we're a partner on it. The city's not receiving funding directly, but we are a partner. And UCSD is going to be working with Northgate Gonzalez Market to advance the CalFresh and provide people in Chula Vista that have CalFresh with an extra $100 to purchase produce at Northgate. And that will be starting later this year. You'll be hearing more about that. As far as environmental issues, and this is the last focus area, one of the things that we're seeing right now, and this kind of just goes back to COVID-19 as well, is that a lot of focus around our climate and around things that are impacting chronic diseases in our community. So that is definitely something that we also are looking more at, is how do we go after grant opportunities using some of these health assessment tools that are out there. One in particular that we're looking at right now with our sustainability office is around transportation for seniors in some areas that are under this CalEnviro screen area, which is basically around our trolley stops and around the I-5 corridor. So we're looking at a grant opportunity to potentially go after to try to provide some transportation services for our seniors in those areas that fall in this vulnerable community according to that health assessment tool. So that's really quick and dirty about some of the things that I could foresee. But I really wanted to put this on the agenda tonight so we can at least start talking about how our community has changed due to COVID-19 and where this commission would like to see us focus over the next year, so that you can really direct me and my work behind the scenes and bring things forward to you. So with that, Lucia, that concludes staff's presentation. You're still on mute, but I think you just realized.
Yes. Thank you, Stacy. Do any committee members have any questions?
This is Mary. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mary.
Hi. No comments. I have some suggestions. Are we ready for that, or are we still in questions?
It's time. You got the right time.
Okay. I really feel strongly about mental health and domestic violence. Both issues are so prominent on, the media and things that you see and hear around. And I feel very strongly that COVID has had an adverse effect. I mean, it was already bad enough. I don't think COVID has helped. So I put in, a couple of cents into those two topics, potentially.
Thanks, Mary. Anybody else have any comments or questions?
I would second that. The mental health aspects, I think that goes in line with community engagement. Now that we're living in an increasingly virtual world, exacerbated by social distancing, recommendations, how are people staying connected? How are people able to reach out to those who are suffering from isolation? And isolation leads to a lot of mental health and other social problems. In addition to mental health, which I think is a huge thing we should work on, I loved the Health Champions Award idea to showcase local people who are giving back to our community. And I think healthy food options are really important. Whether it's the farmer's market idea or just finding other ways for people to get fresh fruits, vegetables, and choosing healthy beverages over the sugar sweetened beverages. I think that'll do a lot for our community. And then, yeah, environmental ideas for probably the master plan and the transportation master planning, ways that people, no matter where they live, will have some physical activity opportunities in the environment available from not too far from where they live.
If I could weigh in too, Mary, I like both of Alan and your ideas. I really do think that mental health is a huge thing right now, more than ever, because of all the isolation and other things that come along with COVID and being at home and adjusting to many different things. And also, I know there's higher levels of domestic violence. So I'm very interested in, obviously I'm interested in all of what we do, but I'm especially interested in mental health and domestic violence issues right at this point. And I do like the idea of the champion award too. I think that's great. If we could, acknowledge people who are doing good in our community. So anyway, my 2 cents. Thank you.
Yeah, you mentioned isolation, and I know that loneliness is a big one too right now, kind of tying in with the whole mental health. So it's another aspect of it. Any other comments?
So I guess I would just ask then, it sounds, I've always heard that a few people mention mental health, and I'm sure there's probably a few others that just aren't saying anything because it's already been spoken. So if there's anything specific as a commission that you can think of that you're interested in doing or directing me to do around mental health or domestic violence, I certainly could look at asking our police department to provide us with some current statistics and a presentation about services related to domestic violence. South Bay Community Services also has that. So if that's something that the commission is interested in hearing about, I could certainly try to agendize that in the future. I just wanted to try to get a little more guidance from you as far as like, where would you like to head with that if that already?
Hi, Stacy. Frida here. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, that's a fantastic point, and I'd like to see more information that is dealing specifically on youth in our community, around the issue of healthcare prevention and engagement. I'm really interested in learning what's been done, or if there have been any plans to get anything done to help house homeless or at risk of being homeless youth in our community, specifically within the poor areas of Chula Vista, districts 4 and 2. Oh my gosh, I got my districts wrong. But anyway, predominantly within West Chula Vista.
I actually think you got the districts right. But okay, certainly. We had previously had presentations from our homeless outreach team, but if that's something, I mean, it's been a few years, so if that's something that the commission is interested in again, we certainly could look at doing that.
I think that's really important, as much information and data as possible, so then we could make informed decisions and recommendations. So.
And around domestic violence too, when I mentioned about bringing the police department in to give us some current statistics and information, is that I'm seeing shaking of heads. So yes, that's something we're all interested in.
Violence and mental health in general.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and move for the 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on the items we've discussed before the commission deliberation. And remember, commissioners, to refresh the view on your screen to ensure new comments, if any comments do appear.
Lucia, I do just have a quick question of the commission before we move to the next item.
Okay, no problem. Okay, Stacy.
Okay, so I did want to just loop back to the tobacco and the flavored products because there was some discussion previously about that. I just wanted to get some guidance from the commission on how they'd like to proceed on that particular item.
I'm sorry, Stacy.
Yes, Patricia.
I just wanted to say that no comments were received for that last item.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, sorry. I didn't know if we were going to go before or after. Thank you, Patricia. Officially, the commenting period has ended.
Okay, thank you. I was just interested in getting some feedback from the commission, how they would like to proceed or not proceed on the flavored tobacco.
I would definitely like to proceed. We put a lot of work into that meeting before. I know it's a little different, but I think even having something preemptive and anything we can do to help, reduce the amount of kids that are going to be using any of these flavored tobacco and nicotine products would be beneficial to our community.
Yeah, my interpretation of that presentation was that the time to act would be now, since state government has already passed the law. It will go into effect next year unless local communities speak up. This referendum will be going into place, sponsored by the tobacco industry, that will then delay any implementation for at least a couple of years. So they were saying that if local communities passed resolutions saying that they would like local control. Oh wait, that was the sugar sweetened beverage one. Sorry, I was thinking about that. For flavored tobacco, though, that's also coming up. Flavored tobacco, yeah, that's coming up as a resolution. I think we should try to advocate for our community to move forward with it, whether or not the state does. From my experience, it's predominantly adolescents and young adults who are vaping products. You're not supposed to sell to people under age 21 anyways, and there is like online retailers that people get around, but I think reducing access within the borders of our community would be important.
Hi, sorry if I zoned out earlier, but can you remind me what exactly you're asking us to move forward on in regards to the tobacco?
Yeah, so I'm actually asking for your guidance as to how you would like to proceed. Where we left off is that City Council directed staff to go back and actually come back to this commission as well to do some further research around the concentration of businesses that are selling tobacco products, the types of commercial businesses that are selling it. And the real reason behind that, and I would encourage you to go to the February 25th City Council meeting and listen to that item on the agenda. And I can certainly send the direct link out to all of you for that. But I would encourage you, I will warn you, it is quite lengthy because as many speakers as we had at our commission meeting when it was heard, there was 3 to 4 times as many people at the city council meeting. So it is quite lengthy, but I think it's worth at least listening to the city council's comments so that you can understand what they were directing staff to do. But there was definitely a big concern about the impact to small businesses that any type of sales prohibitions presents. And so I would encourage you to listen to that. But what I can do in the meantime is I can start kind of getting back onto the direction that the council made to us, which is to kind of look at the commercial businesses that are selling tobacco products, and then also starting to just gather more information from our youth in our community. So if the commission would like me to start doing that piece of it, I certainly can. And then maybe at the next meeting, I can bring something more formal back to you so that you can provide better direction.
Yeah, that would be great.
I apologize.
I have a question. When we, as a committee, agreed to do this, is it something where we would have to go to these small businesses ourselves and kind of, you know, like I think Liz offered to participate in some way, shape, or form because she has access to the districts. But would that mean that we would be out there? Do we hire or ask for volunteers to come on and be surveyors? You know, what kind of parameters do we have to work with?
Well, certainly we wouldn't ask you to go out to the businesses. It would probably be myself or, you know, interns or something along those lines that would do that work. But essentially what I can do is kind of come up with a work plan and bring that back to the commission next month so that you can provide better guidance as far as how you'd like us to proceed. So I can kind of just put something together, a proposal of how we would proceed to address the council comments. So what I would say is definitely listen to the city council meeting that happened February 25th so that you get a good sense of what they requested. And then I can draft something also around that and you can provide me guidance at the next meeting to move forward.
I would like that to happen.
Okay. Thank you for that additional input.
One other thing. Yeah, all the patients we see in the hospital setting and also in clinical setting now encouraged to get this information on tobacco and e-cigarette use. I was wondering if any of that is available maybe on the county level or regional level that we could also look to see demographics of use.
So certainly if you know of a particular data source that you could lend to me, that would be great. Typically, we've utilized a variety of different national surveys. And that was really the concern was, yes, you say that at a national level, a certain percent of youth are accessing it via internet versus via retail store, et cetera. But what is really happening here at a local level? So really, when you listen to the council comments, they really wanted to drill down about really what was happening here in Chula Vista. And really the only way to do that is for us to do our own research. And so I'm happy to put together something and then you can provide additional input next month.
Hi, so I would love to forward on actually talking more about this before we submit anything, any comments to the city council. I work with youth and I know that this is definitely something that will be very difficult to enforce. I mean, we can't enforce it. It sounds like law enforcement would be the entity responsible for enforcing that local businesses don't sell these products to minors, but somehow they're still getting their hands. I would like to focus the conversation on prevention methods to, encourage our youth to avoid vaping and also to teach them the consequences of vaping because I have a teenage daughter and a lot of her friends vape and they don't understand that vaping is potentially harmful. So that's where I would like to take the conversation is how we can focus on creating prevention methods so that youth don't have access to vaping.
Are you considering some type of campaign or in the high schools, it is being taught in the health classes. Like the county has provided a lot of a lot of teacher training, professional development around this issue, and so they have been disseminating the information to the teachers so that they can get it out to the students. But what were you thinking of, Frida?
Yeah, I'm suggesting more conversation around the topic, and I think that this could definitely be can explore as a potential project to receive funding for. I think there is space to continue talking about how we can develop or how we can suggest the creation of a project that can help increase prevention methods for vaping. I think that there's still plenty of room for further discussion.
I think that's an excellent idea, and I think we're looking at two different things personally, because one of them is legislation and small business and kind of that whole aspect of it, and another one is targeting the kids. So I think they're both great, but I think they're completely two different things as far as the focus is concerned.
So is that something that we can recommend as a committee, like some type of local campaign, education?
Yeah, definitely.
This is Mary. This is Mary. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mary.
Hi. There are several projects in our community already working on that. I know Stacy is familiar with some of those. The Lung Association, South Bay Community Services, and there's other organizations working on educating youth, mostly through the school. There's several different programs. I know everything's changed now, but it could be something for us to partner or work with and support some of those programs that are already going on in our community. I presume they're still going on. Stacy, can you catch me up?
Yeah, I think, there was certainly some momentum around a lot of things. But as far as education goes, I think I'm not as adept to it right now as to what's happening. So what I'm hearing is that probably in this area as well, we just want to kind of know what are the current resources, what is already happening in the community. And I can bring forward something at the next meeting that kind of just addresses that, as well as kind of a proposal. I will say that Frida, to address the education issue, that was really actually what I was going to be proposing, was that we gather data through education. And so we certainly can look at what is already happening in the community. I'll do some outreach to some of the organizations that were doing things, find out what is currently still happening, and bring that all back to you. So then you can provide guidance as to what the commission would really like to move forward with and what you would like staff to work on. I hope you guys heard me. You're kind of freezing up on me a little bit. Okay.
We can hear you. Yeah.
I turned my video off because I was starting to freeze up.
All right. Does anybody have any other comments or questions around this? Nope. Okay. Stacey, do I still have to allow another 2 minutes for this, or is this okay for the commenting period?
Every agenda item, we're supposed to provide the 2 minutes.
Okay. Okay. So we will have a commenting period, or I will now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on the item before commission deliberations. And commissioners, please a reminder to refresh the view on your screen to ensure new comments appear. Thank you.
I'm sorry in advance, everyone. I have a hard out at 6 p.m. to go to the hospital.
I think that we'll be wrapping it up pretty quickly anyway. So, but thank you for notification of that.
Yeah.
And don't worry, it's for work, not for anything bad.
All right, so the commenting period for this item is now closed, and I didn't see any comments come in.
No
Is that
comments.
correct? Okay, thank you. Any commissioners have any comments or questions at this time? Okay, so we'll move to the next agenda item, and this is the fiscal year 2020-2021 commission meeting schedule. The commission will discuss holding a joint meeting in November with the Commission on Aging and their meeting schedule for the remainder of fiscal year 2020 and 2021.
Yeah, so I just wanted to go over, we had some discussions previously about maybe moving to a bi-monthly or every other month schedule. But you guys just gave me quite a bit. So if we want to meet in October, our next meeting would be October 8th. And if this 4 p.m. time slot still works for everybody, I do have quite a few agenda items based on our conversation today. So if anybody, if everybody's in agreement with that. And then I did want to address the November meeting. We will have to confirm with the Commission on Aging, but typically we do hold an annual meeting with the Commission on Aging. The Commission along both commissions serve as the joint task force under the age-friendly Chula Vista plan. So we would be discussing issues on our older adults at that meeting. So like I said, I would need to confirm with them that they're available. But that would be the anticipation, is that we would meet in October to go over the items that you addressed tonight and wanted to hear more about, and then meet jointly in November. And then you would provide me with guidance beyond that if you wanted to skip December's meeting, or if you feel like we're on good pace now to meet monthly. So I just wanted to throw that out there and get some feedback, and especially about the joint meeting if we want to move forward with that.
Liz, you're on mute. I think you were talking. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was just responding to my mother who asked me a question.
Sorry.
But yeah, that sounds good to me. I think meeting in October is a good idea, and then the joint meeting sounds good as well. I wouldn't mind taking December off, but you know, it kind of depends on how much work we have to do. I don't mind maintaining the monthly meetings either. So I'm open really to anything.
I support monthly meetings as long as we have a forum, and I support the proposed November joint meeting.
Yeah, I feel the same. Lucy.
I also support it. I do support having December off, though. I think it's a hard time of the year, and attention span and focus is a little bit harder, especially right now. It's, who knows, you know, maybe you have to be with your families, travel. I have to travel, and that's challenging during these times. So just something to think about. We don't have to not meet, but I just wanted to bring that up. But I do support meeting in October and definitely November, because we do have a lot of work. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, unless anybody has an opposing view to that, I think I got the consensus pretty much there.
All right.
Mary, did you have a comment?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I already did. Yes, I'm in agreement with your recommendations.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I will now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on the item that we just discussed for commission deliberation. And as a reminder, please refresh the view on your screen to ensure new comments do appear.
During these 2-minute periods, are we able to talk, or should we just sit?
Oh, I'm not on mute. We are supposed to have silence so that it gives the public a chance to comment without further kind of deliberation of the commission.
All right, so the commenting period for this item is now closed, and I didn't see any comments come through.
That's correct. No comments or emails were received.
Okay, and Alan, I believe this is time for you to ask a question or a comment that you have.
I had a question about what committee member slots are now open, because you mentioned someone had recently resigned. I was just wondering how many spots away we are from having a full committee.
Yeah, so we actually are only one short now based on the commissioner that just resigned this week. I'd have to double check. I'm pretty sure he holds an expert seat. So that would make it eligible to anybody in the city that is a registered voter and has experience in one of the 7 focus areas of the action plan. But I will confirm that.
Any other questions or comments?
And when would that be filled?
So typically they go through the application process. I will say though, we did interview a few additional people or have additional applications from the newest 3 members. So there may be somebody in the pool there that the mayor may end up recommending. Otherwise, they would go through the application process again.
And then you mentioned in the beginning about the voting for chair and vice chair for this year, which we're tabling, but I believe you said, did you say there was only 1 member who was eligible?
Oh, no, we were just discussing who wasn't on the call that would be eligible. So anybody is eligible to serve as chair or vice chair. And I would like to act upon that at the next meeting if possible. So I will put it on the agenda again for October.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is item number 7, staff comments. Stacey, do you have any other comments?
I do not tonight. Thank you.
Okay, and I have no comments as acting chair. And commissioners or any board members, do you have any comments? Nope.
I just want to double check with Commissioner Hernandez-Nader because she did have some conversation earlier in the week. Was there anything that you wanted to address under this item?
Hi, Stacey. A lot happened since I'm assuming you're referring to the email I sent you last week.
Yes, I just wanted to double check to see if there was any items that you wanted to bring forward to the commission.
You know, I did, but I probably will just email you at some point. Everything after Wednesday has become a blur, so I don't remember much of what I wanted to bring forward to the rest of the commissioners. However, everything that was discussed today kind of answered a lot of the questions I already had, including Mr. Simon's presentation.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Just email me if you have anything further.
Thank you for following up. I appreciate it.
Okay.
My only comment.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, my only comment would be that I'm still seeing a lot of COVID in the community, both in the hospital and in the clinical setting. And I know it's easy to let your guard down if you're not seeing it, affecting people close to you, but I've had people lose their husbands and wives. I had one patient who actually lost 6 family members, including a kid that was 13. So it's still around, it's still pretty high around us, and I just want to encourage everyone to try to avoid going to people's houses you don't live with and meeting inside in close quarters. Wherever possible, have your meetings outside in fresh air.
Great reminder. Anybody else? Okay, so it is now 5:57 p.m. and I'm adjourning this meeting to the next special meeting of the Healthy Chula Vista Advisory Commission on October 8th, 2020 at 4 p.m.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you in October.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.